This is the only talk show about pop punk. There is a camera there. And we are here to do this. Now, a lot of our friends, when we've said we're doing this show, have asked us the very legitimate question of, why pop punk? Why not? Why not it's crust-covered daddy punk? Which is also my type, by the way. And the simple reason is, well, it's two things. One, the world's on fucking fire and it makes me happy. Like, the world is burning and it's absolutely horrible, because I wrote this on the bus because it's a fact that depressed me. I'm currently trying to follow my dreams, right? Trying to follow my dreams. Because there's this very old wives' tale that you can't pay your rent in dreams, but when you're 29 with a film degree, it's your only fucking option. So I'm working minimum wage, working at school, and part of this I found out, I was like, you know, this feels like nothing. So the minimum wage in the UK is £8.52. And a recent study said that the living wage is £9. Now that doesn't seem much, but that's an extra £126.40 a month. That is my antidepressant 14 times over, which is enough to stock up for either the year or the apocalypse. Right now I don't know which is coming first. But more importantly, that is also 3.8 pot noodles a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snack. The second reason is that we do absolutely adore pop punk, because pop punk defined our generation, because we're an anxious bunch and it is all about this teenage anxiety. Does this girl love me? I'm going to go to this party, I'm going to drink and I'm going to have drugs and it's great. But there is nothing for adult anxiety. Like, all pop punkers talk about leaving their hometown, but it's not a single song about the rising cost of living in a city centre. There's no songs about loving a girl called Do I Really Love Her or Do I Never Want to Go on Tinder Again? And there's definitely nothing about how the only drugs I now take are my antidepressants and I can't fuck because they make me cum dust.
These really, like, sordid, morbid fantasies that I'm a really famous celebrity, very talented, very, very well known, very groundbreaking in the industry, and I've just unfortunately died. And there's all these documentaries on TV about me. And all these interviews with people that I knew, famous and not famous. And everyone's saying how brilliant I am. And then to make things even more meta and strange, I want this clip to be played at my actual funeral. And for people to watch it, and for things to get even more awkward, like they are right now. As the layers of meta and irony build and build, because I did not die famous, nor did I die talented. And the person presenting, the minister, a close loved one, will just watch the reel with tears in their eyes to begin with, and then it will just slowly turn to stony hatred. It will, because I've never seen it before. I kept it as a surprise. And the clip ends, and they just turn to the audience, I mean, the funeral attendees, and just say, wow, what a cunt.
I really think being a trans person on Grindr is actually really fun, because I like to give people a nice 2-for-1 experience. You know, men in the streets and what the fuck is that in the sheets? I know people do ask, like, you know, people do ask me a lot, mainly cis people, like, what do you have down there? What is it? And I'm just gonna share it with you now, because I'm gonna be that person. So it's basically this abyss of nothingness, where, like, all light just gets sucked in and nothing, it's like a cave, where, like, nothing ever leaves. Or as I call it, my vagina. But not, like, Grindr's not that bad. I met my boyfriend on Grindr, and we've nearly been together a year. I know, isn't it sweet? But a lot of great things come with having a boyfriend, one of them being me. You know, but the other thing is, like, you know, so, like, I get to speak to so many people about it, mainly because they see the hickeys on my neck, and they say to me, oh my God, are you dating a vampire? It's like, no, rest assured I was the one doing the sucking. And the other thing, I finally get to do like the gay shit that I could never do before I came out. So he calls me his little koala is one of the things we do. It's because I wrap my arms and legs around him and everything. And then I piss on him and give him chlamydia. Yeah, and you know, when I met him on Grindr, he was like one of the only people who didn't ask me for a dick pic. And like, you know, so many people ask for dick pics. And when they said to me, why can't you send one? Like, why won't you send me a dick pic? I'd say, you see, I would send you a dick pic. I just don't have the balls to do it. Worth the transition just for that joke.
I found with Blizzard and what I liked about it and found interesting is that I knew the audience would sort of understand what I was on about.
Yeah.
So like, you know, with things like when I talk about like Grindr, when I talk about like, especially with being on Grindr, like being trans, when I talk about like just being trans in general, I knew that the audience would have an understanding of it. Maybe not like overly, but I knew when I went in there that, you know, everyone in there would have
heard of it at least.
Yeah, or some sort of like little understanding of what the T is in LGBT.
Yeah.
Whereas like you just don't. Whereas like I feel like, you know, like you can see it in the video of my set. I say like, oh, I don't want to, you know, preach the converted. You know what I'm on about.
Yeah.
Like because they do, because I know that they do, because it's that type of gig. Whereas like other places, I can't say like, you know what I'm on about. I'm not going to preach the converted.
Yeah.
Like. You're all gay, it's fine. Like, I can't do that.
Maybe you should do it, that'll be really funny.
Yeah. You all know what I mean. Yeah.
You're all obviously
Ain't that
queer,
right,
I can tell.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing I found is that, because sometimes I guess when I'm doing a gig, I'm sort of explaining myself, and I have to sort of be like, okay, let's start from, like, this is what gay means, this is what Grindr is, this is the top and the bottom. Whereas when I came into yours, I was like, how, like, you clearly know the spectrum of, like, all of this. So I felt a bit more relaxed.
Here's some gay jokes.
Yay!
Marvellous, okay. What operation do lesbians need to have in order to have sex? Any takers? Not in that one. The answer to the joke is it's a strap a dick to me. Okay, a bit problematic that my dad did tell me that joke. The day I came out to him. Cheers, Robert. Yeah, thanks for that. Right, next joke. What did the impatient lesbian say to her girlfriend while they were scissoring? Chop chop. It's my favourite. And that joke, much like the act of scissoring itself, does not always work. I can tell you some more gay jokes. I can tell you the joke about the LGBTQIA meeting that had plenty of items on the agenda. Oh, I love myself. Or I could tell you the joke about He-Man's non-binary adversary, then person. I'm not agender nor am I non-binary, so it's not really my place to tell those jokes. The only jokes I feel at liberty to tell are the scissoring ones, but they're quite difficult because you can't really run with them.
I occasionally get mistaken for a man, even though my bra size written down looks like a national insurance number. But it is quite handy having big boobs if you're doing comedy, because if someone comes up to me after the show and says cracking set, I can pretend that they were talking about my jokes. But I do get catcalled occasionally. They usually shout things like, I don't remember that kid from Harry Potter having such massive tits. Although my personal favourite one was when I was walking down the street and someone shouted hemorrhoids at me from a car. I mean, mean, I don't know how he knew, but he saved me a trip to the doctors.
2 things that we need to point out. 1, some of you may believe that this looks a lot like the man on the poster, my double-up partner, Andrew Marsh. The difference is that he is not wearing a shirt. Secondly, I will give you some facts about Balthazar Dark, the greatest wrestler you have never heard of. Fact number 1 about Balthazar Dark. Balthazar Dark's first ever finishing move was the Dark Web, in which he would hire a hitman to finish the match for him. Fact number 2 about Balthazar Dark. Balthazar Dark did in fact invent the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick, where he would smash 2 glasses of wine together instead and pour it on his face. 2 reasons: he's a classy motherfucker. Second reason: too lazy to blade. The third fact about Balthazar Dark, and this is the reason he is on this show today. Like myself, Balthazar Dark was a pop-punk obsessed wrestler, which is why his second ever finishing maneuver was the Blink-182 Tombstone. It's my favourite fucking joke, you grown-ups.
The period where we decided we'll just go on stage with an idea and see what happens. So for a good month or so, it was actually us going on stage, people applauding us onto the stage, just trying not to let them stop applauding until.
Oh, that's still my favorite. That's still my favorite game to play. But that came out of, it's going back to Tiger Lounge, but when it was at Joshua Brooks.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we went there, and like usually it's meant to be 5 minute sets. Usually they give us 10 because there's 2 of us, and we've obviously been doing the night for ages, so there's a bit of like camaraderie, I suppose. We got there, and they were just like, "Oh, right, so instead of 10 minutes for you guys, we've had 32 sign-ups, and we're letting them all on, so everyone's trying to have 4 minutes."
There was no point speaking.
No, there was no point doing anything.
If
so
there's
we were
32 acts on and everyone's doing a comedy set, as soon as if you're 16 acts into that 32 act night, people just switch off. It doesn't matter how good you are. People just switch off after the 16th or 17th act.
Yeah. So we just kind of we were just like, why don't we just see if we can go on to applause and never have the applause stop? And so we ended up kind of like, we announced that's what we didn't announce it, but we ended up with like a 10-second countdown and then just end it on, right, we'll be no million a band cheers. And we go off the stage. We've done that a few times. We used to do it at the top of the show. Our record was at another open mic night of 12 minutes of applause.
Nice. How long was your set?
It was meant to be a 10-minute set. We overran. Matt, he wasn't happy with us about it.
He was alright.
Yeah, he was alright, but he was very joy. You didn't prepare anything, didn't do anything. I was like if you think you can make him clap for 12 minutes and say to do no preparation to it, feel free, mate.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have things like that are trying to create a moment, but if you've got that and then you can bring some quite good written stuff in as well, that's really gonna work a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's almost like a way to reassure as well, right, with the audience, because like you can be doing what we do, which is like massive tangents and fucking about and just having a very loose concept and rolling with that. But if you bookend that with quite tightly written stuff, just like, oh no, they do know what they're doing.
Yeah, they're just having more fun doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they enjoy this. That's cool.
Yeah.
And if we sit through this, maybe there'll be a joke.
Yeah, maybe they won't.
It's like holding the jokes hostage behind just you having fun.
Yeah.
If you enjoy this, you get a joke.
Laugh or the joke gets it.
He won this belt in an ill-thought-out pay-per-view called Rumble in the Jumble Sale.
Just because you steal your title belt from a child who won it in a tombola does not make it any less of an achievement, I'm telling you that, mate.
Oh, you motherfucker.
My name is Balthazar Dark, all the way from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Via Wakefield, West Yorkshire, as you can tell from whatever the fuck this accent is, right? I came here to wrestle. No company in this goddamn country will let me wrestle, so I meet this guy.
Yo.
He says to me, let's do some comedy nights. So we went to Edinburgh for a fucking month.
Which is why our tag team name is the Edinburghs.
And we come back. And then I said, I don't want to do any more comedy.
So did our reviewers.
So Tom says to me, well, why don't we do a show in the format of a talk show? So I said, sure, let's do a show in the format of a talk show, but I'll only do a show in the format of a talk show where the audience is as close to me as my own mother. I said, I'll only do a show in the format of a talk show where there is a mirror so the audience can see how much each other are enjoying the show. Comedy show where if you open the curtain, there is a fish and chips. That hasn't been open since 1972. I said...
I don't mean to kill the illusion, but he genuinely didn't know that was there and did it on the fly.
I said I'll only do a comedy show. I'll only do a comedy show. I'll only do a comedy show.
Well, you can think of the final joke.
I said... I'll only do a comedy show where we clap for 5 minutes at the start just to take up 5 minutes.
I went to Anne Summers for a bit. Yeah, it was buzzing. Actually, you think working at Anne Summers was really fun, right? You know, a lot of people do think that, but selling dildos to bored housewives and lube to the dry and menopausal is not as fun as it seems. Firstly, I can't read Beatrix Potter anymore, okay? I know where that's rabbit's been. And then the other thing is, you get asked questions in retail that would otherwise be really normal, but when it's in Anne Summers and it's in that context, oh my god, is it fucking strange? So people would come up to me and be like, is it try before you buy? I'd be like, oh, what a joke, Steph, is it try before you buy? Have you heard this? No. No, why would it be try before you step away from the butt plug? Or other people who would ask, have you used many of these toys before? And I'd be like, oh, have I used many of these toys? Have you heard this guy? Have I used many of these toys? Yes. What do you think staff discounts for? I'm not working, I'm compiling a shopping list. Or I usually would get straight cis men who would come in with their female partners and I'd show them this really new and exciting vibrator and the men would go, is that going to replace me? And you have to say, of course not. There's nothing like the real thing. What you'd really want to say is, hopefully. If she had any mind about her, she'd realise this doesn't have a gob on it that thinks it's funny. And men don't vibrate, so...
I'm a strange type in people, in general, I really do. Speaking in very broad terms, because I'm attracted to people of all genders, because I'm pansexual, with men or more masculine people, I'm attracted to them more if they're quite hairy and jolly. By jolly I mean fat, a less sadistic Henry VIII. With less baggage. Well, a little baggage is sexy. Never said that before, I don't even think my ego's going far too high. And with more femme-presenting people, speaking very broad terms here, broad strokes, which is the title of my erotic album now. Stop it, Bobbie, stop it. Okay, so with more feminine people are more attracted to them if they're a little bit more androgynous presenting, like short hair, that kind of thing. That sounds very strange and specific. It becomes even more weird when you realise I've just described my parents. Only my attraction to men died the same time that my dad did. That's what the content warning was about, right? I've noticed that on an all-male bill of the actual acts, I'm the only person to have given a content warning. I care about your feelings. So the content warning is death, so I'm going to talk about that. I like to describe my stand-up persona, which is just a hyperbolic version of my real-life persona, as a mixture of dad jokes and daddy issues. I don't know why I looked at you then when I said daddy issues. Oh goodness me, keep me away. So like dad jokes and daddy issues, so kind of like the musical stylings of Lana Del Rey, combined with the dry British wit of Alan Partridge.
Before I realised I was a massive queer, I was quite miserable, and I would do very, very deadpan material about not being able to secure a man.
Right, yeah.
I'm saying it like a man's property.
It's like it's a sale.
Oh, need to put a deposit down on that man. I was very deadpan then, and then I became happier. But then, my dad passed away, and I didn't do stand-up for a couple of months. And I think, in a way, my stand-up's been stronger since that's happened, because it's kind of just like, I've had to cope with loads of shit. I've gone through some shit things. I can deal with this misogynistic gig. I can do it. Do you know what I mean? Before I go on stage, I do sort of imagine that I see my dad before I go up, because he was always very encouraging of it.
Yeah.
So I always imagine that, well, I think in a way he is there, and then I just go up and...
Yeah.
The only gig that I've bombed at since he passed away is one where I forgot to imagine him there because I fancied someone in the audience, and I was too busy focusing on her instead. And I did really shit at that gig, but every single gig that I've imagined him there, I've done pretty well, and
that's really sweet.
That's a pretty good track record, really. Yeah. So it's like, but obviously don't tell anyone, because I don't want people to know that I'm a soft boy underneath it all.
So yeah, I just don't feel like I've made it obvious enough, but I am transgender. I just don't feel like everyone knows. But I love puberty so much, I've decided to go through it twice. This is currently 2 years in the making, so as you can tell, it's going really, really shit. And before I came out as trans, I was a lesbian, and I came out to my family as bisexual. So if you really think about it, I've completed LGBT. Someone has to. And people ask me, they say oh Ben, you came out as a lesbian, you came out as bisexual. Well, how did you come out to your parents as trans? I'd say, well, I walked up to them and said this. I said, Mum, Dad, I have to get something off my chest. It's my tits, I'm a boy. And I'm sure... worth the $8,000 just for that. And I recently had top surgery as well, and I'm about 2 months post-op now. And before I had top surgery, I used to wear binders. I'm sure a lot of you know what binders are in here. In case you don't, it's like a compression vest that you'd wear, which would flatten your chest. And you can get binders in lots of different colours now. It's so amazing. So you can get them in white, you can get them in black, add them into clothing. You can get them nude. I got green. Because do you know what's really going to help my crippling dysphoria and self-confidence? Having the torso of Shrek!
I'm also an orphan. It's not sad or anything, my parents died ages ago. But I was never really an orphan until I woke up one day and started singing a jaunty song about how shit my life was. But one of the things that made it the hardest was that I'm also an atheist. I just don't think that if there was a benevolent creator, he would invent panic attacks. Or at least if he did, I think he'd make them burn calories in proportion to how stressful they are. Because it doesn't seem fair that I should be emotionally, mentally and physically exhausted and also not be able to buy anything on the high street. But yeah, I'm an atheist, and as you know, people like to say a certain thing to people who have just lost someone. We all know what that is. It's, oh, she's in a better place now. And it's like, well, we put her in a fire, Carol. But I'd still rather be there than this conversation. Yeah, so I'm sorry if you were expecting to hear like light-hearted jokes about Tinder. But if you think about it, planning a funeral can be a lot like a dating app. Because you have to decide if someone's hot or not. Unless you're Sweeney Todd, because he prefers Grindr.
You started writing more kind of personal routines about like your kind of personal life and past trauma, I guess. How do you think that's affected your mental health?
It really depends. Like,
yeah.
I think sometimes I try and write about things that are traumatic too soon, and I have on occasion triggered myself by writing about things that have happened too recently or that are still very fresh. And like, the material's been funny, but if I try to perform it, then it's kind of bad. But I think for the most part it's been quite positive, because especially like the mental health stuff, a couple of times now I've had people come up to me after gigs and said like, oh, thank you for talking about that, like it really made me feel like less alone. And that's really amazing when that happens, because you do tend to kind of think that you're the only person who's gone through something sometimes and get in your head. And so to have somebody come up to you and say that I have the same thing, thank you for talking about it, especially when I've made jokes about it, it's like,
yeah,
oh, thank God you're not offended. Yeah, that can be really helpful, because then it kind of tells me that I'm not kind of alone in that thing.
This year, at the start of this year, I had to have some precancerous cells removed from my cervix, which is a bit scary, but because I am quite an anxious person, I decided to schedule my operation on the same day as I was doing a comedy competition in the hope that the fear of one would counterbalance the fear of the other, and it actually did work very well, because any time I got worried about one, I'd worry about the other. But in the end it was all fine. I went into my operation in the afternoon. The doctor was really nice. She laughed at all my jokes. At the end, she told me that I did really well. I was just a bit concerned that when I got to the competition, they were going to want to put a camera in my vagina. I don't. If anybody who's not been to the gynaecologist before, I can tell you exactly what it's like. It's a lot like the hairdressers, in that they make you sit in an uncomfortable chair and ask you questions about your holidays. The only difference being that at the end of the appointment, where they hold up a mirror and ask if you want a bit more off the top, it's an HD camera and you don't get a choice. So I'm going to leave you on one last little story. So, on top of all my other problems, I have been having a bit of a sexual problem. Has anybody heard of vaginismus?
Yeah.
Some people are nodding. For the people who don't know what that is, yeah, I know it sounds a bit like Christmas. And in a way it's quite similar to Christmas, and you're trying to get a lot into a small space and no one's enjoying themselves. But what it actually is where the muscles of your vagina tense up so that nothing can really get in. It's kind of like my body is its own chastity belt. I'm kind of like the reverse R. Kelly, because my mind's telling me yes. My body is telling me no. And also I'm not a child rapist.
In all these matches, you come up for the ranch. Do you believe that I, Big Boy B, I'm never saying that again, could be a wrestler?
No.
Why not? I think I've got what it takes. I've got what it takes to be a wrestler. I mean, look at this physique.
You couldn't beat me, Tom. They call me the Tiger Woods of wrestling, and not just because I've had 17 affairs.
Well, what do I need to do to become a wrestler? What do I do? How do I do it?
Every night in Edinburgh, this guy goes, I want to be a wrestler, and I say, I'll teach you some moves. And he goes, no, all I want to do is talk about my theme music.
Hear me out. Real big fish, take on me. Build up like, take on me, and then I just kind of like come out the curtain going, take me on! Covered in hummus!
You see what I'm dealing with?
Fine, what do I do to be a wrestler? Preferably in 3 or less minutes.
I said I'll only do comedy talk shows where Tom tells me every 5 minutes how long we have.
I mean, you joke, but it's now 2.5.
If you think you could wrestle, Tom, what I'm going to do is a simple wrestling move called a chop. Woo! Oh. Who thinks we should see if Tom can take a chop on it?
You know what? I'm taking back everything I said about Manchester being beautiful. I hate this bit and I wrote it. So. Alright, what do I have to do?
I think the first thing you have to do to make this chop resound soundingly around. That's a phrase, that is a phrase. I think for this chop to work, you have to take off your rather nice Wonder Years. I can do that. Yeah! Who thinks
I came prepared this time!
Who thinks for this chop to really you should take off this rather nice Navy sailor jumper thing that he's got. I don't know what that is. It's just a blue shirt.
It's a shirt.
Take it off, Tom! Yeah!
Do it sexy.
Do it sexy. The ghosts in the fish and chip shop love it, Tom!
This here is right said Fred before they went bald. You doing it?
3!
Fuck you. We get them to do it. I'm not doing it to fucking. Oh. I like how you didn't shush him so they wouldn't know if it hit or not, but I'm not coming.
You know what, Tom?
One more time! Oh, you know what? We have a rule in the show that if that does happen, we will do it one more time. Which we massively miscalculated in Manchester when we did it to an audience of 17 wrestlers and it went for 12. Shush him this time to know how much did. Why are you doing that? I'll make it up more. Why the fuck do you always go for my nipple? Was that good? Was that good? Am I a wrestler now, Big D? We calling that because he throws children from the kids' table. Fucking niche joke, but well done. to do this in the show. Please give it up. Thank you for applauding what was basically Dean Ambrose who let himself go fight the Milky Bar Kid.
Who I should slap him again?
We don't have time, right? We have been No Money in the Bank. If you like our shit, we have an alternative comedy night in Leeds and also a mailing list. We don't have a sign-up sheet, but I do have a notebook and I won't sell your information unless it will get me a train fare. We've been No Money in the Bank. Thank you very much.
We definitely have time for one more slap.
Inclusive my fucking ass. We don't bully people here, you fucking do!
I said the audience, not the acts.
In case anybody was questioning my sexuality, yes, that is a tattoo of a purple unicorn.
I didn't ask for this, but I will play the role I was given. Clam in again. Jonathan Collins, ladies and gentlemen.